I'm Diandra from Cancer Free Haven. This is our Wellness Wednesday series, and today I'm joined with my co-host Brynn from Your Kick-Ass Life After Cancer. And so she's back from our series in December, and we had such a great time. We discussed that as nutrition people, that we could really go every month in perpetuity. This is the start of that, and today our topic is going to be on soy and breast cancer. I am a nutritional scientist, so I've gotten this question many times. And Brynn, as a nurse and as a personal coach in helping women lose weight after breast cancer, always gets this question as well. So this one's going to be a little bit more flexible. We're just going to talk about what we know about soy. And so if you've ever been concerned or had an oncologist who told you, quote, don't go eating soy every day because you have hormone positive breast cancer, but if you go out for Chinese food and happen to have some tofu, it's okay, like the first oncologist that I fired, by the way, then this will be the discussion for you. So Brynn, would you like to kick us off?
Yes. So hello, everyone. Happy to be back here with Diandra. I love this topic so much. When Diandra and I were talking about what to put out here into the world today, soy was one of the things Diandra brought up, and I was like, yes, because I get asked this question all the time. And Diandra has the background to talk about this, but also an interesting twist for herself. So I'm ready to talk more about this for sure. Talk to us about why we can eat soy after breast cancer and how our body metabolizes that.
Great. Yeah. The basic thing to know that why doctors were originally concerned with soy consumption for breast cancer is because it has something that's called a phytoestrogen. So it has estrogen right in the name there. And so they would see that and they would get concerned because a lot of the hormone therapies are turning off the estrogen production or limiting that. What research has done over the years is they've looked at these phytoestrogens, just a plant compound of an estrogen, and how does that actually bind to the breast cells or any cells that would be feeding on estrogen. And actually what they found is there are two different types of receptors for estrogen. So there's a receptor A, which is like the front door. So that is where our body's estrogen is going to bind. And if you do partake in any consumption of meat or dairy, these estrogens, the animal estrogens and human estrogens, are going to bind to that front door. They're going to say, hey, I want to come in, and this promotes cell growth. So we do need that to a certain extent, right? So we have our body's estrogen binding to that front door, the key, promoting growth. And then we have a second receptor, which is called estrogen receptor B. This is the back door. And so the back door, estrogen receptor, that is what the phytoestrogens bind to. And so what's really interesting about the estrogen receptor B is it actually turns off the growth. So it says, hey, we don't need this to grow anymore. It's good enough. And we'll keep it at a normal, healthy rate of growth. If you have been on tamoxifen, that's actually a selective estrogen receptor modulator, or SERM. So what that means is it puts a cap over the front door. So it's like you have this little barricade that says no one can enter. Maybe it's a zombie apocalypse and you don't want anyone coming through your front door. That's what tamoxifen does. It doesn't actually shut off your normal body's estrogen production. Some oncologists like this in long-term treatments for breast cancer because you can still have estrogen production that helps your bones. So that is really important. But then what the soy estrogens, the phytoestrogens, do is it will bind to the estrogen B receptor, the back door, and it says, hold on, let's have normal growth. That's why it is actually really safe to have tamoxifen and soy consumption at the same time because they're working on different sides. So it's a really nice balance of having these two ways to protect your breast cells from excess estrogen exposure.
Eat your soy, y'all.
Yeah.
And this is why some of these studies that have come out about soy interventions with women who've had breast cancer, postmenopausal, premenopausal, right? There's all this data out there. But this is what has been showing that the soy intake actually can show a reduction in your estrogen levels, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So that also then what protects you from breast cancer recurrence, right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I was like, because I feel like as you're talking, I'm like, this is really sciencey and I love it. But that is it. The soy really can be protective for us, is what it comes. Awesome. I love that so much.
Yeah. So we also have a question in the chat about, is that all phytoestrogen? So the answer is yes. So it's not just from soy. I know we plan on talking a little bit about soy allergies. And so I will give you a great alternative to soy for that one.
And I feel like, oh, this is such a conflicting topic because of the older research and the newer research, right?
Yes.
So when do you feel like they knew what they knew and they haven't accepted the new stuff? So when about time period did this newer research come out?
Talking about the research, the thing is that our oncologists have very little training in nutrition. The older an oncologist is, not trying to be ageist or anything, the less nutrition training they're likely to have. If you have a young oncologist who's graduated in the last 10, 15 years, sometimes they're doing continuing education still, and then they will learn more about nutrition in that continuing education. My oncologist was near the end of his career, and he said that his wife was a dietitian, so he had gotten his nutrition information from her. And the only thing is there's an overarching program that they have to follow these guidelines. The guidelines that they're given are about 15 to 20 years behind the science because they want to wait for this massive amount of information before they make any updates. So they're very slow on it. So even though we have these clinical trials, we have more observational studies as well, they can't implement it until it's been accepted by the board. And so when I was in my PhD program for nutritional sciences, I had thought about doing a dietetics track, but then I saw that they couldn't use the current research and that they were taking a step back. And to me, it just didn't make sense because what is the risk of someone eating more soy now? It either will help breast cancer risk and reduce it, or it will do nothing. So I think that it's not that they're trying to dissuade you from making these health choices. It's that they literally don't know, or they're just not well versed in the recent science, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that makes complete sense. And I feel I have the same experience. Of course, I am 17 years out from my diagnosis. So at the time, soy was not the thing. But since then, it's become more where it's, okay, soy is good for us. Or like you said, even neutral. Neutral is good, right? Like neutral's okay. It's not harmful is the big thing, right?
Yes.
You're also vegan.
Yes.
Soy is a wonderful form of protein. A half cup of tempeh, which we're going to talk about tempeh a little bit with you, but a half cup of tempeh has 15 grams of protein. That's amazing, right? And if we think of like tofu, half a cup of tofu has 10 grams of protein in it. Again, a great protein source, plant-based, really good, especially if you're vegan, vegetarian, but even somebody like myself who is not, we eat soy in my house once or twice a week. And it's just a great protein source in there. So yeah, so Diandra has a soy allergy. Soy allergies are not too common. You see them from time to time. So you have to navigate the benefit that you're going to get from.
Yeah, for allergies, there's about, it's been estimated 1 in 2,000 people will have a soy allergy. And so they're less frequent than dairy allergies, than nut allergies. But what we've noticed is that if you haven't had soy growing up, then you're more likely to develop this allergy in adulthood. So I did not do any soy growing up. My parents didn't know what it was. And that was okay. But then as I transitioned to a plant-based diet, that's when I started incorporating more soy, being like, oh, this is the best thing. And so I did food allergies because between two cancer journeys, I had a lot of allergies. And it seemed that I was having allergies to almost everything that I ate at the time. Soy was one of the ones that cropped up. I had really abstained from soy consumption. I was like, oh, this isn't good. I really need to remove it. But I didn't have any reactions for a while. So I started trying to incorporate some and just test the waters. And what I noticed is that if you have edamame, that is like the raw soybean. I accidentally had this one time. I was at a restaurant and I was just like, oh, just give me the veggie bowl, not looking at the ingredients of it. And of course, there was some edamame in there, and I started to have my throat swelling up. I knew immediately that my allergy is to the edamame. If you've ever been to an allergist, when they do the food panel, some of the foods that they test are the raw form, actually. That's the case for soy allergies. If you have a soy allergy, definitely avoid edamame because that's going to be that instant trigger for you. And then from there, it's more of a spectrum. Some people can tolerate more and some people can tolerate less. But one of the things that I found was that if I cut down on soy milk, do oat milk or almond milk or cashew milk, and then instead I try either tofu or tempeh, that helped me so I don't have any reactions anymore. So tofu can sometimes not trigger allergies because it's been heated. That can denature some of the proteins. And basically all that means is when you're cooking it, the allergen, the thing that would cause you to have an allergy, is no longer available. So it changes its form and your body says, hey, that's not an allergen anymore. I don't need to attack that. I think one of the cool things is with tempeh, it's actually a fermented process to make it. If you're really sensitive, going for tempeh, this process of fermentation is also going to provide enzymes that are going to help you to digest it better. So that's why some people can eat sourdough bread, but they might not be able to eat like a white bread or a whole wheat. And if you are on that high sensitivity for soy consumption, then you can bypass this entirely and go straight to flax seeds. We did have a comment in the chat asking about phytoestrogens. Phytoestrogens are found in flax seeds. So all you would need to do would be 1 to 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed a day, and you're going to get the same amount that you would get via soy, and you're going to have none of those risk of allergic reactions. So that's a great alternative that I put those in my smoothies. So when I'm not having any tofu or tempeh, then I do get that every day, and it just helps with that estrogen metabolism.
Yeah, I love flax seeds. I put them in everything. You can put them on anything, whole, bake with them whole. Like Diandra was saying, when they're ground, add them into your baked goods, put them in your smoothies, put them on your oatmeal, all of the things. Flax seeds are so versatile. And so a creative way to work around your soy allergy, Diandra just shared with us. And I love it because you can see where you're still able to consume the soy and benefit from it, but obviously not have your throat swell up and not be able to breathe. Important things here. And it's something, soy can be allergenic, right? You have a true allergy. And then some people are just sensitive to it. Soy's in a lot of things, right? You know this.
Yes.
Soy is a very cheap grown product that is added to a lot of processed foods. Most chips and pretzels and things in a bag are going to have some kind of version of soy in them. My understanding is that those soys are a lower quality soy that we should be avoiding more of and including more of these higher quality soy. Is that a way to look at it too?
Absolutely. So what Brynn is mentioning is soy protein isolate. So what that means is they took the edamame, they took the soybean, and they really extracted a lot of the nutrients out of it, a lot of that package. So the soybean has a decent amount of fiber, which helps you to slowly digest the soy and to get those isoflavones out of it, the phytoestrogens. What the soy protein isolate tends to be is, unless the product is labeled USDA organic or glyphosate free, then it tends to be a GMO soy. So we have this genetic modifications, and I'm not completely against GMOs, but in this context, specifically with soy, they use it so they can add more pesticides to keep the plants healthier. I specifically had a glyphosate reaction. So I did a test for glyphosate and found out I was in the 97th percentile for top amount of glyphosate out of all the people that had taken this test. So really high amount. So I attribute some of my soy allergy to being maybe not necessarily the soy plant itself, but how it's grown and the pesticides that are being used on it. If you look for fully organic version or something that says glyphosate free, then that could be something that you could test out. But then also there will be certain products that will say soy free on the front. Just going for those versions will be a great option. But if you're looking at tortilla chips, shouldn't have soy in there. That's not a natural additive. Looking for things that have 5 ingredients or less, and usually things that you can pronounce. If you can't pronounce it, then it's likely a chemical. There are some exceptions for vitamins that they will say, but that's usually just a general good rule of thumb is if you can't pronounce it, then maybe you shouldn't be eating it.
Yeah, I love that. And so I feel like too with the lower quality of, like you said, the heavily processed soy items can be really inflammatory to our body because of the glyphosate and because of just how they're processed. It strips away all of the good things out of it. But I have found that I will work with some of my clients who are like, oh, I don't think I tolerate soy well. And we'll review the research and then have them step away from these lower quality soys and include the higher quality organic tofu, the organic tempeh, organic edamame, if that's something that they enjoy. And it's like, all right, so now you're getting the phytonutrients, you're getting the phytoestrogen, you're getting all of the benefits without low quality, basically. This is across the board with a lot of things. They do this easily with soy and corn, a lot of things. And it's really aggravating to our body. And until you step away from that processed food, you're like, that's what was doing it. And that kind of goes back to your conversation too, where you were talking about bread, right? So gluten.
Yeah.
You can tolerate a sourdough, not to just go get a loaf that's in a plastic bag on the grocery store shelf that can sit out there for a few weeks and not change. So same thing, just an intolerance, not a true allergy. So awesome. Yeah, I feel like we have talked a lot about soy.
Well, I'll let you just give us one more point here. Where do you suggest people start when they're trying to introduce soy into their diet? And then we'll wrap it up for the day.
I like for people to have the creativity with food because that's where you can really enjoy making food for yourself. And when you're buying these things at the grocery store and you're bringing them home and you're cooking food for yourself to realize how good you can feel. And so I recommend people just start experimenting with tofu. Super easy. It keeps in the refrigerator for a while, but it's easy to just cube up and just to saute a little bit. And we're really big into making ramen bowls at home. I make really good broth with lemongrass and ginger and garlic, and then add some noodles and tons of veggie, which usually includes some edamame as well, and then some cubed up tofu. And you've got this beautiful food in front of you, and it really is a good source of protein. And I've got leftovers in my fridge because I had ramen last night, so I know what I'm doing today. But it's all of those flavors too, and it's just not to be afraid of it. A lot of times when people think of tofu, they think it has to be fried. Oh yeah, it's delicious.
I love it baked.
Yep.
Actually.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bake it too and get it crispy, or if you use an air fryer, air fryers work great. You don't have to do that. Like you can really just saute it and eat it, and it's delicious. So I just say have no fear about the soy.
Go for it. And then, just incorporate it gradually. I think that's the best thing with any new food. Don't try to eat it 3 meals a day for a whole week straight. Just ease yourself into it. Start with 1 meal at a time. See how you feel. Because if you do have a reaction to soy, an allergy, it should come up within the first hour if it's a severe allergy in your throat. But then it could happen for the first 24 hours after you eat it. So I would suggest eat it once, give yourself a day, see how you feel. If there's any fatigue or anything like that, then you may have an allergy. And if not, then you're good to go and you can start incorporating it more from there.
Yeah, great advice. Sometimes these food allergies are not right there as you eat it. There is a delay, and that's what makes it tricky to figure these things out. So,
Yeah, yeah. So definitely just like keeping everything else normal while you're testing the soy will be good, because then you'll have a reference. You know all the other foods you're eating.
Yeah, love that.
We're going to wrap it up for today. I'm so glad that everyone was able to join us for this. If you have any questions for us that you'd like us to talk about for upcoming Wellness Wednesdays, we're going to be doing it monthly, Brynn and I. So feel free to post a comment, and then we'll consider that for our future Wellness Wednesdays. I hope that you all learned something today about soy, that we shouldn't fear it for breast cancer, that it can be a healthy addition to a well-balanced diet, and that you have a great day. And I will talk to you again soon. Take care.
Bye, Dion.
Bye.